Okay. All right. So apologize, that little technical thing. Okay. Right. All right. So besides that, though, yeah. So like having this be a lot more of an upward momentum moment instead of him like kind of like going to the side, I think would make it super strong. There's no reason you had to keep that arm hooked onto that horn. It actually really feels like it's limiting him. And then when you get back onto the mount at the end, I think you're just having the exact same problem you were having before. Everything's kind of like lined up. Everything's sort of lost in foreshortening, and this is not really super strong. I mean, we've got a hand coming out of nowhere. This one's totally lost in foreshortening. It looks like his head is growing out of like his knuckles right here. We have one leg, no knee. It kind of is all stacked up. Okay. And I would double. I would take out half the time of this anticipation, and I would put it into the air, so he can pop up, have sort of like his like a nice air time, and then land on the bull. All right. Thank you for being a part of the AnimGym. I'm really appreciative. Everyone who's here every single month, you guys are helping each other. You're helping yourself. You're doing good work. So let's give them a round of applause. Good job. Mr. Benelli. Okay, next up, Kitwana Julius. All right, first impressions. Here we go. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Oh, interesting. Okay. All right, so he slows in too quickly. When his body starts moving up, your slow in, has like that many. You really need to add way more breakdowns or in-betweens into that slow in. Okay? Because here's why. It feels like he's pushing up and like doesn't quite make it. All right? It feels like that his effort to get up onto the horse isn't quite enough effort. What would that be? What would that turn into? That would turn basically into a bouncing ball, right? No upward thrust. How would it slow into the top? However it is, how would it slow into the top? Right? Exactly like a bouncing ball, wouldn't it? Okay? So the fact that he's pushing up and there's only like 4 in-betweens there, and it really actually comes to like a quick halt, means to me that he's actually like using his hands to like slow himself down or something. Like he's pushing forward and then his like hands stop him. Whereas if you have him slow into that and maybe even overshoot it a little bit, it would be like, okay, like first like push and then gets back up. I love the idea. I'm a huge fan of animation where everything doesn't like quite go right. Whenever I see a animation where everything like goes perfectly, I get a little bit, bummed out, because there's always a little bit of mix up, a little bit of, misfire and wasted energy or whatever. There's always a little bit of that possible to do in a shot. So I like this unsuccessful mount and then him finishing it off. But I think that moment is a good experiment moment. If you're on board for, which I hope you are, the experimental workflow, then pardon me. If you're on board for the experimental workflow, then this is a great moment for you to save a copy of your scene and just add 1 frame there, then add 2 frames, and then add 3 frames, and just like don't judge it while you're doing it, but then watch them all, like play blast them all, and then just like play them one after another, and just feel it out, and then pick the best animation. Remember, we can't always do the best animation first try, but we can certainly pick the best animation out of a choice of a few, right? So give yourself a choice of a few and then pick the best one. And then you can tell people later, you say, yeah, that was my first try. You know, who's going to know? A little bit more in the spine. His spine hits, and then there really isn't anything going on in his spine when his butt hits the saddle. There's a little bit, I don't know, it kind of feels like a little bit of overlap towards us, towards camera. I would expect a little bit, you know, downwards as well. And the hips can be rotating backwards as the upper spine is overlapping downwards. Or, you know, what did I say? The root, I guess, can be rotating backwards while the top of the spine is overlapping forwards. It'd be fine. And then it looks a little bit like you're rushing towards the end, like he has to come to a complete halt. If I had to guess, I would say that here's the end of your shot, that pretty much all the animation curves, you know, come to a like a flat right there. It looks a little bit like you're not animating through the end of the shot. Okay, don't be afraid to like have your character be moving realistically, you know, all the way to the end of the shot. Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. Thanks a lot, man. Always a pleasure to have you on board in the AnimGym. Hot Sea Mount. I don't know whose this is. Oh, Dar. Mr. Darjaburi. Oh, this is cool looking rigs. Oh, these the what are they called? Anim Tools rigs? Okay, Dar. All right. So first off, what I would say is this has the, it feels like this has the timing of one with like a lot of air time. Like he pushes up strongly so he can sort of like really with his weight coming to that slow in at the top of that bouncing ball, sort of adjust his body and line up the landing plop onto the saddle. But it doesn't have the posing of that timing idea. And as well, it almost seems like this. It almost seems like the spacing is that bouncing ball coming up to here. And then it's very even but slow all the way down. It seems like two different, well, you don't continue the whole bouncing ball sort of idea, you know, thrusting up and then plopping down onto the a saddle that you started. I love the beginning for timing and sort of like the weight of that thing. I think it would be strongest if you went with that. So let's talk about how to finish this thing. One thing that you would start with is this foot would have to be a lot like more loosey-goosey in that stirrup. Okay, so don't think of this as like an anchor point or like a hard step that he's like nailed to. Think of it as he pushes off of this hard, but as his foot is, you know, his knee is bent and whatever, and he pushes off. But then once his butt, you know, goes past, it sort of almost pulls his foot, right? And so you can stretch that leg out, and that foot will actually, you know, kind of go like this. Let me clean it up a little bit. You can stretch that leg out, right? And that foot will actually stretch out. It'll just be the toe, you know, resting in that stirrup, right? You see how if you have him sort of like launch up here and sort of rotate in that, it's really not as interesting a body dynamic, at least for me. I like the idea of him pushing up and then having all that kind of air time to rotate his body and like really feel like his weight like kind of come to that stop, and then he kind of like settles, flops into that saddle. Okay, very stiff in the spine, very stiff in the spine. Work with the root. Okay, this what it looks like though is this. It looks like you've animated the root. If this was my workflow, where I would be working next is breaking up the spine a lot. I would go way overboard. Over animate on the overlap on a body dynamic, a body mechanics shot like this. Over animate the overlap on the spine, because it really is a knob that you can use to kind of control his body control. How much he is able to kind of like wield his body, wield his strength, and be in control of what he's doing. Okay, let me make sure I'm still streaming here. Yep, looks good. I have to check every once in a while because I've had a few streaming issues. One second. Okay. And then the last thing I would say is that leg, it really kind of like goes up and kind of like, okay guys, I'll see you later. And it almost feels like, because it disappears like behind the silhouette, that like we know because of what happens behind the horse that like he's on the saddle now. But I would consider making that leg move a little bit faster so that we catch a glimpse of it on the other side. Even more than that, I don't think that's enough of seeing that leg to not make it feel like it just disappears. Okay, so that's a little bit of a silhouette problem. Okay, cool, my friend. Thanks for being in the AnimGym this month. I want to see much more of your work here. I hope we see you again next month. So thanks a lot. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, Dar. Thank you much, Lee. Mr. Robot Ham, James in full effect. Oh, cute. Okay, great. Yeah, I love this. I think the arc is a little shallow on his mount here. What I mean by that is, I would look at this dynamic of the of sort of like the pendulum, like the reverse pendulum that his arms create. Meaning when he's down here and his arms are outstretched, if it creates a dynamic where his jumping is the majority of the momentum and his arms are sort of almost steering him, they're doing a little bit of the work, but they're also kind of steering him, then if you go from a little bit of a bent elbow that you have right now to a little bit of a straighter elbow as he goes over, then this will be a point of contact, and then this distance will stay the same, and what we'll be able to see is sort of it rotate over, so I can't do this, I gotta do this on my Cintiq. Hold on. Like that. It'll rotate over and keep this distance. And then when it kind of releases at the top of this like pendulum swing, that'll be super clear because the arms will go from a little bit straighter to right here, they'll go to bent, and his hips will kind of plop, you know, and bounce kind of where you have them happening already. So I guess that was just a very long-winded way of saying, well, you really cheated the arm length, didn't you? Maybe not. I don't know why, but that background arm especially looks super long. Maybe it's not. Anyway, that's just a long-winded way of saying that having him jump and then the arms never really go straight until that very last moment is dictating to the eye that it's primarily the arms that are taking over, like from like this moment until like this moment. He's really lifting himself with his arms, whereas I think it's more realistic and stronger animation to have that jump pretty much do it all, and he continues the work of his legs by almost setting up this like, you know, tipping totem kind of effect here at the top, and then the rest is great. I like how his arms kind of get cleared away by his legs. You could slow into this a little bit more. And the forward momentum from this little scooch, you could slow into that. It hits a little bit of a wall right here. This is very strong, though. I would say that this is probably the strongest AnimGym I've seen from you yet. So that's great news, man. This is serious improvement. Great work. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, man. Thank you very much. Jeff Rappis. Listen, by the way, props to you guys. Huge props for like getting like a horse model and just like blocks right here for your stirrups or you know what we just saw James's shot where it's just like a horse shape. Bravo, okay? It makes me so happy to not see like these you know, horses like over animated, or you know, just all that time wasted when it's really a body mechanics exercise. Ooh, Jeff is pretty good too. I'm just sending out a tweet if you don't mind, because I think people should see these awesome shots. What happened to you? I will be my own. Love it. Okay, Jeff, let's talk about this. So, cool. I like the little setup, the little hop, you know, sort of getting himself ready. Probably should maybe anticipate downwards a little bit more on this one. Just looking at the screen space. All right, so that's where basically the bottom of his hips are. Yeah, it's a hair lower. I would make it a little bit even lower than that, and then also maybe to just get that room back, right? Because you can't go from like A to B and then back to A to B. You have to go from A to C, right? So something new. Maybe this anticipation is a little bit too much. You could also lessen the effect that that's having by not having his background, his planted leg maxing out. So lift the heel or do something, just get a little bit of a breath of a bend in there. And then on the second one, well, there you go. You kind of want to switch the planted leg. You want to switch it. You want it to be straighter so that there's a bigger change just in pose on the second one. Another thing is, you know, his foot is up in the stirrup, but that foot needs to be way looser. Same thing that I was saying, I think it was to Dar. You know, imagine this is a stirrup, okay? And once you get your foot in it, well, it's still only, you know, it's on the end of a leather strap, right? So it's still only kind of, you know, restricted in the direction that it can twist very, very lightly. I mean, there's not a lot preventing it from twisting like any which way, is my point. As well as, depending on how deep your stirrups are, it's only like maybe 2 inches thick as well, maybe 3 inches thick. So once he dips down, or even like he gets his foot into it, and even like right here, his foot should basically go down into a pose like this, right? And then especially when he dips way down, you know, you can even have the foot even, you know, the heel even that far down. Point is that the major thing that's going against you right now, especially like when he like pushes up like this, what would happen if he pushes up like this? He would be putting weight on this on this foot. So we should see the heel like really kind of like dip down when he does a little hop. And then maybe the heel can come up just a little bit to like maybe right here. And then when he really pushes off, that's when the heel shoots down. Okay? Watch out for this arc you have. He moves to the right and then he moves up and over. Unify those arcs. Okay? And then again, loosen it up. No reason that his foot can't come a little bit out of the stirrup to accommodate the height that you're giving him. No reason at all. Okay, yeah, but I am noticing, even at speed, I am noticing sort of the dual nature of those arcs. It goes this and then over, whoop, and then over. And lastly, same thing, same kind of comment I would say to you that I've been seeing on the others, that the height of his arc as he pushes up is, it seems like it's almost perfect. It's like tangent to the height that he needs to be. Nobody so far has really had the character, you know, swing up and kind of overshoot the amount of height they need to get their leg onto the horse, which is just I think that would happen every single time. I think you're probably going to come a little bit over the saddle and land in it. And the subsequent, I mean, you're just a breath, but I don't even really count that. And it's missing pretty much everything in the spine after that hit. It's way too stiff in the spine for me. But yeah, I like to point out what moment in your shot is good for experimentation. This is your moment, Jeff. This is where you should be experimenting in the height of how much he. You know, the air that he gets, and seeing if you can do something a little bit more interesting with that. Okay? Okay. Cool. Looking good. Thank you, Jeff. Round of applause. Oh, look, Rob is in the house. Rob, did you turn one in this month? No, it does not. Does not look like it. Just hanging out. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Okay. Whoa. That's interesting. Whoa. I don't think that is... I don't think I've ever seen a horse be mounted like that, ever. What's going on with the arms that's making me feel... God, how dope is that? Just look at that pose, guys. Wow, this is awesome. This is what I would say. A little, it dies a little bit right here. Okay. By the way, if it plays an ad for you guys, don't sweat that if it's in the middle of your critique, because the ads are not saved into the recordings. Okay. Maybe I should wait until it's serving me an ad right now. Maybe I should wait until it's done. Okay, my ad's over. So I was just saying that if it serves you an ad right in the middle of your critique, don't worry, because the ads are not saved into the recordings, okay? Wow, cool. Yeah, so it comes to a little bit of a dead halt right here for me, just on these two frames. I wonder if maybe what you can do is this. I know this rig has squash and stretch spine, full IK, I believe. So maybe what you want to do is just control a little bit more of the slow into this moment on the head by stretching him like 2 or 3 frames backwards, starting a little bit of a stretch, and then having his head catch up to this frame by having it squash a little bit, the spine squash just a little bit at the top of this arc. If I have to comment on that part, which I feel like I do. Also the arm that's in the air, it feels like he's forcing it to be in the air on these like 3 frames. Like this feels natural. And then it starts coming over, but then like right here especially, almost looks like it stretches as well. Just like right here, it's almost like he's forcing it to be up there, like he's resisting the bow going somewhere that it wants to go a little bit more naturally. I understand that you're not dealing with a lot of room at that moment in between his body and the horse's neck. But I wonder if, you just continue it just a little bit more, especially when he lands, like having that arm bend, that elbow bend, and the bow kind of go across his body just a little bit more, and then kind of naturally back on the path that you have it in the rest of the shot. Last thing I would say, there's not much to comment on. This is really pretty. The last thing I would say is that we see from the body mechanic, from the full body picture, from the the head to the toes, that he's scooching, but there really is actually a push off with that arm. The only thing that we actually get to see that indicates that is that elbow kind of is planted back there. Clearly, it's planted, and then it disappears as if it's straightening. I think you might be rotating his spine, his shoulders, back to the center too quickly. If you left the shoulders, the spine twisted in Y back towards that planted arm for like 2 frames longer, it wouldn't interrupt that scooch at all. It would just give us a few more frames to read that elbow planted, and I think you would actually have a less range issues with that planted arm as well. Finally, as the spine starts coming around, then as the arm reappears over there, which is a little sudden, I think you can delay that 2 or 3 frames, and then they'll be working much better together. Okay, so as he's pushing off, just keep him twisted back like 2 or 3 frames longer. Experiment with it, and then bring the arm with the spine as it turns. Right now he's pushing off, but somehow with that planted arm, he's already straightening while that arm is planted and pushing off, and then it kind of comes out of nowhere after that. Okay. Ooh, I almost dislocated my shoulder. That was weird. My arm went numb just now. That was weird. Anyway, that's funny. Man, this is crazy. Everyone in the world, 1, 2, 3, 539 likes on my the sign on my door, my Arconics door. It's just weird. All right, this is really nice, Christina. Well done, well done. Everyone, give a round of applause. This is a much deserving shot of our applause. You did great. Monica, another entry from Monica, who is a stalwart participant in the AnimGym. Always can depend on you, Monica. Let's check it out. First reaction. First reaction is very. I'm sorry, I didn't say this when I watched it first. First reaction, very strong, very good. Just some very simple ranging issues with the spine, which is making the spine feel a little disconnected from the hips. Here's what I'm seeing. It looks as though there's a moment right here where the shoulders actually are taking most of the weight. And check this out. The shoulders are taking most of the weight, and the rest of the spine is almost being like slapped. So the butt is almost being like whipped onto the back, and then the shoulders, the weight comes off the shoulders then. Okay, let me see if I can describe it like frame by frame. Right about here, it looks like the shoulders have taken control of the weight, and as he drops that background shoulder, his right, you see how the hips start almost like reaching for the horse right there. It's a very, very, very simple ranging issue that I'm having here, and it's simple to fix. What you need to do is just have the character as a whole. So take his root and make a little bit of a more exaggerated, stronger, in sort of easy to follow bouncing ball, like parabolic arc on him. So his hips are driving the show. So overshoot him a little bit more and space it a little bit more of like your natural kind of slow in, and maybe not this high, but right now, they're only clearing the horse by like a couple inches, like this much space, right? So if you doubled it, if you had the hips basically centered, like double the height, I think it would work perfectly. What that will do is it'll do this. There won't be a moment anymore that the shoulders are kind of ahead of the game of the hips, because this feeling of the hips rising and falling will propagate through to the shoulders, and as much as even if you try to counter animate it completely out of the equation, you'll still always have a little bit of the hips movement, just like felt like a little bit, like a little breath of that in the shoulders, which will kind of reverse the direction of the dominance that's going on here. It's very subtle, but if you watch it through my eyes with that filter on now, I think you should be able to kind of pick up on what I'm seeing. There's a moment where he's in air, his hands are holding on, and it looks like his shoulders have the weight to almost slap the hips on the back of the horse. It's small, but it's there. Okay. Don't wait this long to move the hand. This planted hand is planted way too long. I see a little bit of an elbow pop right there. That's another just a simple ranging issue. It seems like you can probably use the shoulder control to take that out, or move the hand, right? He plants the hand right there. No reason that he has to walk by it and it has to stay completely still. It won't max out that badly at all if you rotate the hand and bring it a little bit more towards his body. All right? It won't max out nearly that much, and then that won't be such a bad pop on the elbow itself, okay? And here as well, if it's rotated, you won't max out either right there. Things are coming at the end of the shot. Things are coming a little bit too much to a dead halt for me. The knee stops and then that foot stops, kind of like rotating. Was probably the IK foot control, and there's a lot going on in terms of sort of like wiggle in that elbow. It seems almost as if you're fighting against like a constraint or like the range of the planted hand. Just in general, feet should slide, feet should scuff around and pivot and rock and roll, and hands as well. There's no such thing really as like a planted hand. I mean, do this. Like, take your hand, stand next to a like a table, put it down, and then walk by it and see how quickly it starts like, you know, pointing with you. And you'll see, unless you're like really holding on and like you have something that you can really grip. Like if he had a fistful of the mane, I can imagine that, but his hand is just sort of resting on top of the horse. But unless you have like a real grip, like there's nothing that at all that can prevent your hand from moving. Like even if you press it down really hard on the table, you know, it just starts sliding. So do little experiments like that, especially, and this has to do with other shots, especially, you know, body mechanics shots where you have a character standing and performing and emoting and whatever. Definitely, you know, like stand up and just like shuffle your feet around, you know, change the weight from hip to hip, and just watch your feet, watch your toes move and point and redirect, and like, you know, just subtly and naturally, and put that into your animation as well. I don't think this horse is over animated. I think it was actually important to your shot to see what it would look like when the point of contact kind of changes on him. I would say though that the, you know, same note kind of applies, where I'd like to see him sort of, you know, go up and overshoot the entire thing more, and I think that would be stronger. Last thing I'll say about this one is you got to be careful about this super straight leg, because it's a very it ends up looking very kind of like well, stiff when you have it moving sort of with the body. It almost looks like it's a stick stuck into like a ball of clay, and if you rotate the ball of clay like the leg, it loses weight is what it does really. So you got to be careful about like keeping that leg straight for so many frames. Okay, otherwise great. You have a lot going for you in this shot. Good job, Monica. Thank you for being a part of the AnimGym every month. Very dependable. Round of applause for her, please. Raymond Brandon. I think this is a first-time entry from Raymond. Good to see you, man. This is awesome, because this is the kind of response in the body that I've been looking for in the entries so far. I think. It's just the funny thing about it though is that the back half of this is kind of connected to a front half that looks like it's almost in slow motion. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to AV controls, playback speed 2 times. Okay, here we go. So this is at double speed. Let's watch it. That's not right. That's not working. There we go. Here's double speed. That is like almost perfect animation. Like for me, that is like almost perfect. So I'm not sure what happened here. Actually, let me see something. Sometimes QuickTime really screws up. Oh no, it is 24 FPS. Okay, well. All right. Sometimes the play blasts will be 12 FPS, but here we are. This is almost perfect. I'm going to critique it at this speed. Okay? You could go a little bit lower on the arc of this arm. Basically just straighten the elbow out just a little bit so that the swing is lower on that arm. Not too much. You don't want to distract, I wouldn't say. Everyone, please pay attention and look how that hand is sliding and rotating with the body on this motion, on this movement here. Okay? I would say that probably if you could, you wouldn't want to have the elbow like this bent. Maybe lift the elbow up so that it doesn't get any more bent than maybe that. Even though it's right, it always just looks a little weird to have sort of opposing elbows. In a flash, so like at speed, when you have elbows like this, it always looks like one of them is broken. Just a little bit of silhouette issue. Maybe slide them over a little bit so we can just keep a nice clean read on that forearm right there. It's a small thing, but it's a I think it's an important thing. Monica, take a look at this leg, this straight leg, for tips as to how to deal with the leg that pushed off. We got a huge stretch right here. This is a beautiful pose, and then immediately he starts bending it. And it starts catching up. I would say that the amount of bend on the leg also could be something that you can put a little bit of overshoot into. So basically, what I mean is that he comes up and over and plops down onto this. You could also have the knee kind of crunch up just a little bit, and then settle down to where you have it a little bit more. What you have so far feels very natural in terms of its connectedness. Oops, my there we go. Its connectedness to what you've animated in the rest of the body. Though I do like to point out where I think a little bit of experimentation would be fun and interesting and strengthen your shot. So in your shot right here, I think maybe playing with this foreground leg would give you some places to play and have have fun with it. I will say, no matter what you do, the ankle's a little stiff. It feels like everything is very relaxed except the ankle, where the leg is kind of moving, the thigh, the calf. They're obviously. They feel muscly. They feel actually kind of like sinewy and realistic. But the ankle staying at the exact same angle for that 10 or so frames at the tail could be a little bit different. There's a little bit weird thumb pose. It's a little too far out. Feels a little bit broken. The background arm. The screen right or his right arm is also super stiff. I think we are getting a little bit of a glimpse at your process marks on there in that it looks almost FK and that, you know, there's sort of like this wiggly path that it takes almost upwards. Same thing with the head, though. Honestly, you know, you're forgiven for, you know, the head wobbling around at the end there, but it also looks like the head kind of goes from right to left, and there's a kind of a big pose change right here. I would smooth this out a little bit, make this a little bit more of a unified arc. Instead of, it does hit a little bit of a wall on this frame. You don't have a frame counter, so I can't tell you exactly what frame, but it's this one right here. Feels like it hits a wall. Actually, it halts. I didn't realize this was 2 different frames. Right there, and then there. Yeah, so I would like just like take that frame out. Take that second frame out. And remember, I'm playing this at double speed. I'm playing this at 2 times the speed that it was animated at. That would be the first thing that I think you should do. Super strong though. You're just seeing things in slow motion, Raymond, which is not a bad thing. That's an easy thing to fix. I mean, I wish we all had animation problems that that you could take care of with that much ease. Let's give him a round of applause. Good job, man. Good job. Okay. Cool. So this is always a lot of fun. I'm glad you guys came out. Got to think of a new AnimGym topic and post it in the forums right away. It's already the 6th. I know you guys would like to get to work early in the month on these. I'm just kidding. You like to wait until the last second. That was just wishful thinking. I'm trying to put this seed in your mind to start on these earlier, not rush them so much this month. No, in all seriousness, I'm just really encouraged by what I see month to month. I keep on telling you guys, this is what I would be doing if I was learning animation all over again. It'd be just little exercises like this. Think of how good you're going to feel about yourself when, you know, when it's next June and you've got a dozen awesome, you know, finished tests in your or if you started with us back in November, or was it October? Anyway, some of you guys have done it every single month, and you will have a full demo reel's worth of work in just a little while here. It's improving quickly, which means you're improving quickly. You're getting even practice on your workflow, so you're not just getting better at blocking, you're getting better at every part of the process. It's really super positive what's going on here. I gotta ask you guys for a favor, though. A little bit of a favor. I want to do this. Every person that refers a student that applies for and takes collabs, I will send a copy of my book, Finish Your Film. Tips and tricks for making an animated short in Maya. This is brand new out this year. It's chock full of production tips, Maya tips, workflow tips, story tips on how to make a short film start to finish. Has a companion DVD with a dozen short films, as well as Booty Call, which is the example film that we animated last year in Animalia. Okay, so take this seriously if you could. Go to yourselves, everyone who's here, go to collabs.arconics.com, and if you want to hear more, which I hope you do, go ahead and just hit the apply button. There's no obligation. I just want to get in touch with you guys on a one-on-one basis, because I can't tell you all the amazing things that are lining up for this project that we're doing. And then if you refer a student and they tell me like, oh, I heard it from Monica, or I heard it from James, or whatever, I will send you this book. Or if you already have this book, I will send you either How to Cheat Maya 2014 or Sam's Teach Yourself Maya in 24 Hours. Okay, you get that. Okay, so please help me spread the word about collabs. It's very difficult. I kind of screwed myself a little bit, because it's a good problem to have, I guess. You know, I have a lot of things that are going on. Little Painter's finishing up. I'm trying to get a lot of attention towards that. Just moved offices. The book just came out. I have Animalia in September. And on top of all this, I have this insane project that's lining up to be just a real game changer. With this project, I'm positive, I am certain that there will be all eyes on our cause as animators. All eyes will be on us. There's just no way, no two ways around it because of the star power of the people that are already on board. There's just no way for there not to be. Okay, so thanks once again. This has been fun. I'll see you guys this month in the AnimGym, and thanks a lot. All right, rock on.